And also too, if somebody else on the other side starts making you angry, this is a good chance to practice neutrality. What's triggering you to get angry? What is it? Like then it's like literally seriously, like take a step back and be like, why do I feel this way? Why do I, like whatever the issue is with one of our politicians, like why do I feel this way deep down? Like something happened in your early childhood to make you feel this way. And chances are if you're reacting in an emotional way, it's probably not good. And that is a fear-based response. That's something fear basically, it's another word for saying inauthentic response.
Yes, brother.
So why are you having this fear-based response? What's it triggering? And this is part of personal growth and growing. Be neutral. Try to be as neutral as much as you possibly can. When you're having a conversation with somebody else, like your goal in that conversation is to leave that conversation learning something that you didn't know. Otherwise, you just wasted your time, and all you want to do is just use your mouth and just talk and try to get your point across. Most times, you're not going to change people's minds.
Mama say, Mama sama makusa. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm on the Milky Way.
I like that, man.
You like that?
I like that.
I was digging the design. I was like, that's really cool.
That is cool.
Look at that. What's up, B?
I'm ready, man. Ready for another one.
Oh, baby, let's go. Welcome to the More Than Black and White Health Podcast. This is Paul and Brian. We're your boys. We're also healthcare professionals, health and well-being professionals, and we are here to share insights about the things, tips, tricks, tactics, strategies that you can take, that you can use and implement to help you to a better, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Healthy, wealthy, wise life. What else, B? What else are we going to bring up with this goodness that we bring?
We're going to be all over the place. That's what we do. We just we come in organized and we leave disorganized, but it all works out,
What are we saying?
Hey, and at the time of this recording, man, 1 year we've been doing this.
Bro.
Over 350 something subscribers, 10,000 views. So, as Paul would say, bless up to you guys. Appreciate you. And we're enjoying it. We're here to stay.
Bruh. Listen, every episode, I get the sense I'm getting wiser. Like from looking up, researching how we chop it up. It's like, what?
Yeah.
And listen, we go all over the place and we always come back. We always circle back and it makes sense. It's freaking great. It's great.
It's like the pendulum, right? It goes up, you're all the way on the other side, all of a sudden it swings back down, you're back to reality, and boom, boom, boom. It's
a pendulum, man. You know what else I freaking dig is when we have a podcast and then we create another topic from a podcast. I dig when we do that. And you know what? I'm so happy that I know you dig it too, B, because that's what today's topic is. It's neutrality. What? Neutrality. Yes, that's right. So neutrality. B and I were like, yo, when we were chopping it up, like what we're going to talk about. And I was talking to Brian about neutrality. And this came up in a podcast that we did about frequencies and vibrations. That's one of our most watched videos to date.
That was a good one.
That was a great episode. And you know what? As I'm talking about this, I figure it's good for us to bring up this
funnel, right?
Yup.
Yeah.
Vibration. What do they call it? The frequency funnel? Frequency
Sounds
funnel.
Good to me.
Yup. Got it. Okay. So here, what are we talking about, people? Well, I'm glad you asked. When Brian and I did this episode on frequency and vibration, Brian brought up about the vibrations. We were both talking about it, but Brian was talking about this cone or this wheel that talked about that showed the levels of vibrations, right? Or like what emotions were at certain frequencies. So when we look at this, and I'm going to expand this here. Hold on. One of the, whoa, where'd it go? There we go. Okay. Hold up. B, you still seeing this?
Yeah, I'm seeing it, but I don't see the funnel yet. You're still scrolling.
Yeah, what the heck happened to it? Technical difficulties. All right.
There we go.
All right. So when Brian and I were going through this, right, I remember Brian was like, oh, well, neutrality is more than courage. And at the time we started talking about how someone's experiencing a lot of shame. Brian was saying, like, we're not going to go from shame to joy. That's too big a leap. We're going to go from shame to guilt. So this neutrality piece, B, you remember when we were talking about this, right?
Yeah.
Can you recall what you were saying about the reason why that, like that line of pride, courage, neutrality, willingness? You had a reason as to why they're that order. You remember when we were talking about that?
Well, I don't remember exactly what I was saying, but neutrality, that's kind of like almost like, that's like the breaking point. That's like the midway point. Is once you cross over neutrality or you master neutrality and you start going to willingness, that's when your vibration starts getting a lot higher.
Yeah.
That's where you want to kind of be. It's almost like that bridge. Think of it as like your chakra systems, right? You have your 3 chakras on top and you have your 3 on the bottom of your heart in the middle. The heart's the bridge. Neutrality is kind of like, the way I look at it is like, it's like the heart. Once you kind of get over to that, then you're starting going, you start increasing your vibration, which is on a spiritual, if your goal is to be on a spiritual journey and inner peace and everything like that. I mean, you got to master neutrality, which is very difficult in this age. It's very difficult,
Huge, extremely difficult. So people, that's the setup, right? That's what, when we were talking about that, and B, I think that's pretty much close to exactly what you said, because that's what got me to start to explore neutrality. So when Brian talked about this, I was going through a situation, and I thought I had a certain amount of kids, and I was in a paternity case where I had to do a paternity test. So there was a point in time, and it was actually right around when Brian and I were recording this episode about frequency vibration, I got an opportunity to practice neutrality. So today in this episode, Brian and I are going to explore what it takes, like what self-neutrality, we're going to label it for this episode, what that actually is and what it takes to integrate. And I'm going to use my example as what I got to do to help me move through and stay neutral. Because as Brian said, that shit is far from easy, man. I was sharing with you some of this stuff. I was like, yo.
Yeah. It's not easy because you have to have enough energy and you have to have enough insight to overcome pre-programming. And that takes a lot of energy. I mean, we talked about this in the past. When you have to look at yourself in the mirror and change your being in a way, it's like as far as like trying to like self-progress or try to personal growth, that's more difficult than any workout you will ever do.
Yeah.
Because like again, like what we said in the past episode, you have to become very vulnerable. You have to break down. You have to look inside. You got to be like, well, this is I have issues, and I need to work it out. So,
Yeah, and dude, you hit on the head, man. There's definitely issues to work out in self neutrality, because I had to work it out, bro. Mm-hmm. And what, like Brian and I are gonna break down just like some of the stages I experienced and some of the things that we uncovered as we were talking about this. In this neutrality, what I had to practice was like being on the line between I'm this kid's father and I'm not. Now at the time I didn't know. I'm gonna save the results until end for like a Maury Povich type effect. But I'm making jokes out of it because I'm a little uncomfortable talking about this. But I'm gonna do it anyway. All right. So it was really about towing the line, really figuring out where I was leading as far as my emotions and what I wanted versus what I didn't want. So that's the first thing that let me know, like I was tied or I was attached to a side. At the time, I was like, look, I want to be this kid's dad, so I want this to be positive. Yet at the same time, I also had to recognize, like, yo, if I'm not, man, I'm gonna be in a bad place. Mm-hmm. So now I had to start looking at, well, shoot, man, like where am I with this? And like, what's my emotional tie? Right. And like, where am I experiencing shame? Like, where am I experiencing this? And I had to look at that self-neutrality before I could do anything. So B, you because I was looking at your notes, man. You talked a little bit about, you started writing some bullet points about self-neutrality. So when you were looking this up, like what were some of the things that you found about that piece?
Yeah. So self-neutrality, from what I found, was it's basically the same thing as self-love. So
Yeah.
maybe before we get into self-neutrality, I will kind of explain what it is not. So I think for most of us, we grew up with with significant insecure patterning, meaning patterns of thought and behavior that rest on the assumptions that some part of our own authentic self is either flawed, or we have feelings of shame, or they're bad and needs to be hidden or distorted in order for us to evolve in relationships with others. So, or if you have developed what they call like a shame-bound identity, basically that means if you believe something is wrong with you, flawed or broken, it makes it very difficult to function in this world. And this is because you need in order to function in this world, you need like a sense of self-esteem or self-worth in order to keep us psychologically balanced, even if it's not authentic. So to balance out the sense of like extreme shame, we have to develop what they call like compensatory mechanisms for making you feel better. Like an example would be like, always thinking you're cool, you're interesting, you're better than others, you're more intelligent, whatever allows you to kind of distance yourself from that inauthentic shame or guilt that you feel.
Yeah, man.
So, I mean, you can go, I mean, there's a lot of different things. Some people rebel. They just want to be badasses and whatever the extreme is to kind of get out of that.
Yeah.
So, basically, whatever it is, there needs to be something equally authentic to your core self that balance out those feelings of shame.
Dude,
it's a natural survival response.
It is, man. It is, you mentioned something before, B, which I think is important, and we've talked about this in past episodes with that root chakra energy center. Like that's that sense of self, sense of ability, and that's also where I think you mentioned it before as a pre-programming.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden there's this concept of, well, this is a family, this is a dad, these are all these things. So in alignment with what Brian was just saying about the shame-bound identity, that was one of the things that was pulling me, Brian, when I was in that space, right? I was like, because damn, I felt shame. I'm like, yo, I haven't connected with this in 2 years. Like, damn, I'm a terrible father, like blah, blah, blah. Like I started beating myself up with these stories and these thoughts. Then on the other end of it, I was like, yo, man, I'm gonna be an asshole if I'm like, if I want this test to be negative. Like, yo, what kind of dude am I if I don't want to be this kid's dad? Yet at the same time, there was a part of me that was just like, yo, I get my passport back, I get more money back in my pocket, my credit gets better, like all these different benefits. Yet at the same time, be like, I was still so concerned in the shame, man. Like,
Yeah.
I had to really, it was tough. Yet at the same time, it was an awakening for me, bro. Because I got to look at, well, shoot, man, like, damn, well, that is the tie. Okay, I got it. And here's the kicker. The self-love is the acknowledgement, bro. So when you talk about that, I'm like, oh shit, like I get what that piece is. The self-acknowledgement is like at least acknowledging, like, yo, I got this field to this side, and I got this field to this side. I'm gonna chill in the middle, like Switzerland. I'm just gonna freaking chill, B. Like, yo, Brian, what the? And there was a discomfort in that, bro. There was a discomfort, and I think this is where you were talking about like the survival response, right? Because like,
let me ask you a question before we go into that. When you were working on this neutrality, did you come to a sense of peace before you heard the news, or were you like, let me figure out the news and then I'll deal with it?
I had peace before the news.
That's great.
The peace, like when I got the news, I had my reaction and I was able to like, okay, cool. Now what's next?
Yeah.
It was bizarre because there was a part of me that wanted to be angry, that wanted to be like sad. And I was just like, I feel those things, but I'm like, it's like water, bro. It's like, All right, I'm back to neutral. I'm back to balance right now.
And I think that's good, because once you have that neutrality and something like that happens, or something in the future happens, you have that objective look on it. It's not just a reaction coming out of emotions, and you can think clearer
Yeah.
when you're not tied to one emotion or one of the extremes, whether it be joy or it be hatred, whatever it is. You're kind of in the middle, and again, you're not going to have an emotional response. You're going to think more objectively.
Yeah, and that was the key piece, right? That I learned in this, which I'm understanding the benefit long after that I got the news, is that being in that neutral space, I can think clearer. So if I was free of really looking at this neutrality, Brian, like I would have probably went off on a bender, or I would have been like extra pissed. And then I would have made a mistake. And I think that's why this is so important that we're talking about this, because this is where a lot of people are, B. Like they hear something and I show a test, they're like, mother.
Yeah, you're letting programming take over for you. That's what you're doing. That's the ego talking, and it doesn't get any more inauthentic than that. That's and one of the reasons we wanted to talk about this episode too, it's election year. This is where people they go ape shit, and and I always kind of laugh at it, I have different views on politics, and to me it really I'll probably get a lot of hate for this, but it really doesn't matter who you put in office, in my opinion. It really doesn't matter. It's the same shit at the end of the day. Everyone making promises. You know what I would love to see is when they debate, you hook these guys up with polygraph tests.
Bruh.
I would love to see that shit light up on stage.
Yo, please talk about reality TV, bro.
Oh, I would actually watch it. That'd be interesting, people be sweating up there, and you get people that can call in and just ask them any questions they want, but I have no faith in our government system. I'm not saying we're better or worse than any other government. I think we're better than most governments out there, but I'm blessed to be living in America. But it doesn't really. I could care less what happens either way. So
well, since you brought this up, let's go here for a moment.
Yeah.
And listen, disclaimer alert. This is free of any type of political affiliation or our perspective. We're saying this because this is in alignment with what we're talking about with neutrality. What happens is when people fail to be neutral, we can be easily swayed. The pre-programming is also involved in party pre-programming, thinking that a party represents this when they may represent nothing you stand for at all. Mm-hmm. Yet the thing is by a person failing to be neutral, they're going to start clashing without even really knowing what the heck the real issue is.
Yeah.
Now, we're saying here, you can be neutral and have your party. The thing that we encourage is actually going into this next segment of when I was coming to peace, I had to really look at both sides of the coin. Right, I had to really what I called SWOT the spaces. So the SWOT is like strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Right, I had to really look at this. I had to look at things objectively. What's the benefits of one side? What's the cons? Mm-hmm. Free of the pre-programming. What's the benefits of this side and the cons? Well, yeah, okay, I can hear that. I'm still gonna go this way. Hey, we still friends, all right? You want to get a Heineken? All right, yo, let's go. Instead, B, you know what it's like. You're a such and such.
Yeah.
I can't talk to you, but I've known you since first grade. Shut up. Get out of here.
1,000 things, and you guys can agree on 999 other things, and just that one thing, people they look for anything to kind of separate.
Anything, bro.
Shit,
It's crazy. It's crazy. But look, Brian. You and I have spoken about this in a lot of different ways. And the whole container, the pre-programming, is designed to create division.
Sure.
Okay. It's this illusion of choice. And the thing is I saw this George Carlin piece on this. He's like, it's the illusion of choice. There's only two choices. What do you here? There's two major everything. There may be a ton of people that could be good to run the country, be the executive in command, which is a figurehead, right? That's why when Brian says it doesn't really matter who you vote for, I'm like, I'm with him.
Yeah,
he's right. But again, and now some people may get upset about this, and if we lose a couple followers, hey, listen, whatever works for you, whatever you're aligned with, okay, and we're free of being any kind of affiliation. What we're saying is to pick the best for any situation, specifically when there's self-love. That means picking the best situation for you and your family and your loved ones. It's important to be neutral so you can make the best decision. That's where it comes to, man.
And also, too, if somebody else on the other side starts making you angry, this is a good chance to practice neutrality. What's triggering you to get angry? What is it? Like, then it's like literally, seriously, like take a step back and be like, why do I feel this way? Why do I, like, I don't, whatever the issue is with one of our politicians, like, why do I feel this way deep down? Like, something happened in your early childhood to make you feel this way. And chances are, if you're reacting in an emotional way, it's probably not good. And that is a fear-based response. That's something fear basically, and it's another word for saying inauthentic response.
Yes, brother.
So why are you having this fear-based response? What's it triggering? And this is part of personal growth and growing. Be neutral. Try to be as neutral as much as you possibly can. When you're having a conversation with somebody else, like, your goal in that conversation is to leave that conversation learning something that you didn't know. Otherwise, you just wasted your time, and all you want to do is just use your mouth and just talk and try to get your point across. Most times, you're not going to change people's minds. That's it. We're more worried about saying what we need to say and trying to convince other people than trying to learn and trying to grow. Because the ego, most people are too egotistical. We can't be wrong. We can't, it's my way and that's the only way, and blah blah blah. And it just, then it starts when you start getting put in a corner. That's when you see, like, on Facebook or Instagram, it starts becoming personal. Like, how do we talk about immigration or healthcare, and all of a sudden they're clicking on your profile pic and they're calling you this and this and this. Like,
yeah, man, talking shit about your mom and shit. Like, damn, man, I don't even know you.
It's comical. Like, that's we talked about that before. Most people have the mentality of a 12-year-old. Like, seriously, according to psychological studies, most of us we don't get past the age of 12 mentally. And this falls in line with our, with CEOs, politicians, everything like that.
Right, dude. You're dropping so many gems right now, man. It's like, you're like, if you're a video game, we'd have broke high score right now. Like, that's for the goodness, bro. Because first of all, I'm gonna go from what you were most recent and back. Our mentality is that of a 12-year-old. Overall, as a collective, like, so we fail to even learn how to communicate our thoughts effectively. We're still in that primal phase where it's like, unga bunga, like, you said something, I'm mad, like a little kid. Yet instead of, like, and then coming back to what you said, like, well, what is the attachment? What is the activation here that's making me, that has me so angry with this, that has me sad, that has me this, and then sitting with it and figuring out what that is, because I'm telling you, that is the key. Listen, the thing I think it's important for people to know. And, like, from what Brian has been saying, what we're saying is that when you fail to at least acknowledge what's happening and the reason something's happening for you, you're easily susceptible to manipulation by your own emotions. Your emotions, you'll want to like, I'm going to speak for myself. When I was going through this, Brian, I wanted to defend a stance so freaking tough that at one point, I didn't even want to think that this kid couldn't be mine. Mm-hmm. I'm like, fuck that shit. I'm not even looking at that. Yet I was like, well, what's the attachment? And then it comes back to, like, this wanting to right a wrong. Like, oh, well, I got to be there. I got to do this. Like, no, I don't want to hear that. No. Yeah. It wasn't until I was like, yo, this kid might not be mine. Then it was like, I didn't want to accept that because I'd have to embrace a certain amount of sadness, anger. I'm like, no, I couldn't be. And then also that would mean I had to address my own decision making, that I'm a piece of crap because I should have known.
Yeah.
Come on, man. That joke will jam your ass up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a tough situation,
Yeah.
you know. But I
It's
think
a
just an
choice.
overall, like when you're neutral, you're like you're less likely to be swayed by a negative emotion,
Right.
or reaction, and it
Right.
creates more of like a peaceful and internal environment, and you reduce the stress, anxiety. So I always try to. I'm pretty neutral with a lot of things. Like one of the
Yeah.
things is like as I became an entrepreneur maybe like 10 years ago. It's very like up and down, up and down. Like I get why people like to stay in the rat race in corporate America because I'm not saying it's easy, but you just collect a steady paycheck. You just go there and it's easy to collect it's easy to just be stable.
Yeah.
Easier, I should say, where you're starting to build out a business, it's ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And as in the first couple of years, I wasn't really used to it. I was like fucking like stressed and going down. But at the end of the day, you just got to have the mindset like it's all going to work out. So I became very, very neutral to a lot of things and just my emotions. So like I'll wake up in the morning, I'll get like a bad email where like, maybe 6, 7 years ago, I would have shit the bed for a couple of days. Now I'm just like, all right, been there, done it. I know what to do. Let's go. And a solution always follows. And like, there's nothing ever bad that's happened to me that wind up not being very good. Because you just figure shit out, and then like when you have that neutrality, like I said before, you become more clear with your thoughts. You're very objective. You're not flipping out. Don't get me wrong. There's times where like I always allow myself like maybe like a 10-second like blah 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 like fucking blah, whatever. And then after that, I'm like, all right, man up, let's go. Stop. Yeah. Shut the brain off. Maybe I'll get a little meditation in there. Maybe, grab something to eat, and then I just kind of work my way through it, and I figure it out. But being neutral has helped me so much, and it's okay if you're not in the beginning. That's a big step for personal growth.
Yeah, man.
The trick is to kind of look, again, like I said before, like look at yourself. Why is this triggering you? Really do some work. Like something happened in your past life that triggered, or something happened in your programming days between the age of 0 to 7 that caused this trigger to you.
Yeah, man.
What's going on? Journal, meditate on it, and the answers will come to you.
I want to ask a question of you too, man.
Yeah.
When you're practicing this, I guess like the question is really, what are the ways that you consistently practice it, right? Like, so is there like, as you go through the day, like, are you asking, like, do you practice asking yourself these questions, right? Like, and the reason I ask that is, well, yeah, let me ask you that. Like, as you practice neutrality, like, what is your daily practice of neutrality? Because I heard you say, like, with the business standpoint, but what is like the daily practice for you?
Every morning I do about 10 to 15 minutes of meditation and visualization.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge believer in that. I mean, like we've done episodes on this with quantum physics and, the power of visualization and vibration and, frequencies and everything like that. So I definitely know the universe has my back. And we talked about in the past episode, the universe wants every single one of us to be successful.
Yeah.
We just got to have that. Your energy matches what the universe brings back to you. So if my favorite politician doesn't get in office, and I'm not consciously aware, and I'm flipping out, I'm freaking out. Oh my God, this is going to happen to me. This is going to happen to me. Guess what? It's going to happen to you, So it's like, I always have that mindset. I'm very grateful for what I have.
Right.
I use gratitude. Gratitude, like it's one of the highest vibrations you can have. Gratitude. I use visualization. I apply it. I try to find little things throughout the day. Like, somebody cuts me off on the road. 15 years ago, I get out of the car and stomp the shit out of them. Now I'm like, it's not personal. Listen, I got a little edge to me still. I'm not
yeah, B.
Some things I need to work on, but I'm more like, all right, it's not personal. You know, they have to get to work. Maybe, you know, maybe they have to take a shit and they gotta get to the bath. I don't know what it is, you know. So, but I try to be more calm, especially now that I have a 2-year-old in a car seat back there. You know, I can't be, you know, pulling people out of their car.
They'll be like, yo, is that how you handle it? Okay.
Yeah. That's not setting a good example, you know. So
I dig it, bro. I dig that.
but
You know,
I use morning routine techniques to kind of calm me down, and just like, and I do a lot of traveling, I do a lot of reading, and I gotta see shit that, like, you know, that nothing phases me really much anymore. Like, you know, it doesn't really get me too emotionally down. So
yeah. I had a feel, you know, I asked that question because I had a feeling visualization was going to come into it.
yeah.
I just had a feeling, like, getting to know you, like, in our conversations. And I think it's important that people understand, especially with staying neutral, is that you can explore in visualization the opportunity, the space on both sides of the coin.
Yes.
I mean, like, so it's like, while there may be a side that you specifically want out there, right? There is a strength and a weakness and an opportunity and a threat and all those. Really, I like to say a strength and an opportunity. I don't like to call on weakness. There's opportunity there. And there's also a strength and an opportunity in the opposite of what you want too. The visualization is something that helped me out as far as, like, being able to really, like, well, what would that, like, to settle into it and then be able to address those questions, like, well, what's my real attachment to this, and what if this were to happen, what's the way this could be a gift and a benefit. I think the way that we see things and the way that we perceive things can be a major, it could be either a detriment or an empowerment to us if we really look at it a certain way. Another thing that helped me, man, was a support system and being neutral. The reason I say that is because, you know, I have people in my life, like, B, I know you and I have talked about this, like, as we went through, like, and as I was going through it, like, there's some days we're supposed to record, and I was like, I don't know if I can record today. And B was just like, yo, you need to talk, man. Yo, talk. Tell me what's up, man. Yeah. I was like, so what happened was, you know, and as a guy, it's so important to have that, you know. So it's like, I love the fact that we have that relationship where I can just talk, and it's never about, well, this is what you should do. It's more inquiry, curiosity, and I invite people to start to create more of those spaces for themselves and for others. So when you're hearing someone that's got a perspective that's outside of yours, in order to practice the neutrality, start to ask questions. Well, tell me what got you to really follow or believe in this thing. Like, what was the core value? Start to ask questions like you're truly curious. Mind you, Brian and I are free of telling you gotta change anything. And also, we want to encourage you, if you're going to hold this space, be free of trying to convince or convict someone. I heard you talk about that before, where it's just like, oh, if this person isn't on that, you.
Like, I think that's huge. Like, the more neutral you are, you release more of your authentic expression, in terms of you're not feeling fear, or you don't need approval from others. Like, you become, I mean, I think this comes with a lot of, like, you know, age and you know, like, you know, we're growing up, like, you know, as a kid, your goal, you want to be liked by everyone. You know, you want to have as many friends as you possibly can, even though, you know, we know now they're not really friends, you know, but as you get older and you become more secure with yourself, neutrality kicks in. You're not picking sides. You're just kind of, you know, your inner circle shrinks.
Yeah.
Totally cool. I don't have time for everyone, so that's totally fine. And you express your authentic self. Like we talked about this in a past episode. It's all about dharma, right? You know, you can't be overly emotional one way or another and live your dharmatic. I don't even know if that's a word. Your dharmatic life.
It is now.
It is now. I just make up words, man.
That's what we do here, people.
Yeah,
totally,
and especially
get involved. Like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, and like for people like Paul and I, or other people that do podcasts, that your goal is to help other people. You try to heal other people. Like, you cannot not be neutral or have self-love and expect to give that to somebody else. Like, in order for our goal is to be effective in this niche. You have to be compassionate. You have to be empathetic. You have to want spiritual growth. And without neutrality, you're not going to get there. You can fake it, like we talk about people who have compensatory mechanisms, and they try to create inauthentic ways to try to make themselves feel better, but that's not really who they are authentically, because they haven't hit this level of vibration yet.
Yeah. Dude, can I say, man, that was one of the things when I was talking to people about this concept of neutrality, they kept comparing it to Stoicism. And the biggest differentiator that I found was what you just said. It was Stoicism is like, I'm emotionless. Whereas I see neutrality is like, yo, I at least honor and acknowledge the emotions, yet I'm gonna move from a space of alignment, like for myself. And I'm curious, like, have you heard that comparison at all? And like, what are your thoughts on like the two and the distinctions, man?
Yeah, I mean, as I'm reading more, like I've read a lot about like Stoicism through, like, especially like Marcus Aurelius. I don't know if you've read his stuff.
Yes, bro.
I forgot who the father of Stoicism was. I'm drawing a blank who it was. I can't think. Anyway, irrelevant. But I read a lot of stuff about him, and it does have a lot to do with neutrality. One thing it's hard for me to grasp with neutrality is they want you to. The whole thing about being neutral is not to be like overly like sad on something or something on that, all the way on that kind of polarity, like angry, sad, or whatever like that. Or they don't want you to be, not that they don't want you to be, but it's not good to be overly happy, because you start having an attachment.
Yeah.
And I'm a person that I like to get excited for stuff, especially when I'm doing like visualization work and I don't think it's going to happen. All of a sudden, like 3 or 4 months later, it pops up. I'm like, fucking A, man, I created this shit. Let's go.
Exactly, bro. Exactly.
Like, neutrality's like, all right, okay, you're good. Just go. Like I don't think Buddha ever got over. I don't know if Buddha ever got overly excited, or Jesus, or whatever you believe in. So, they were vibing high, but I think they just kind of like, maybe they knew it, and I don't know.
Well, so dang. So I love what you. I'm appreciate what you said, because especially as I started really learning about this manifestation, and there's a certain segment that's happening right now in my life where I'm like, I'm studying Hermeticism, and I'm like, oh shit, it really works. Oh
shit. Yeah.
This is how it is. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the piece of the neutrality where it's like, I can have that excitement and okay, come on back.
Yeah.
That's the that's the integration, because now it's like, okay, now it works. Okay, now integrate. Like this is normal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think being humble is a huge key component to it too. Knowing that it's not you doing it, you're just kind of like the median through the universe. So when you're a Reiki master. So when I do Reiki on people all the time, I do like muscle testing, soft tissue work on them. I do Reiki on them, and they leave the table like, man, you're amazing, blah blah blah. And I can be like, yeah, but I'm like, I just kind of like, I'm so like desensitized by it now. I'm like, oh, I'm glad you're feeling better, blah, 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 because I know it's the universe giving me what I need to heal this person. I'm just a medium in it. And I'm saying this very like humbly. It's not me. Like, I don't create the energy. It's the universe that's creating the energy around me that's allowing me to heal people that come to see me. So,
dude,
humbleness is the thing. So,
yeah. So okay, let's settle in on this for a little bit, because I think this is important for people to dissect. Because I personally had this this like WWE type cage match with the word humble, like because for me in my pre-programming, like it was never really to celebrate anything. Like how we grew up was just like, like, all right, cool. Almost like act as if you've been there before, right? Mm-hmm. And when you get praise, it's like, yo, my mom would be like, well, you should see what he does here. Or you like, you know what, just like great and keep moving, So, and to me growing up, that dinged my confidence, because I was failing to really acknowledge like, oh shit, like I got skill. But so when I hear you say humble, like be humble, like, so man, I guess like I'm really curious, like when you say being humble in this, like I'm hearing you say being accepting of this something higher that is creating this, correct?
Yeah, it's a team effort.
Yeah. Okay. So this is important, right? Because what you call humble was important for me in the final phase of this neutrality, because I had to recognize that whatever the result is, you said this before, all is going to be well. And this was in alignment with something bigger than me. So when I started to really come to grips with the neutrality, and a lot of like, I can't believe I'm about to say this on a public platform, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't really give a fuck. Like I had to recognize that in the, like, so I found out I got the paternity result. I found the kid is not mine. So I had my emotions, I had my thing. And then it came to a point where I recognized that I started looking at like, what's the right thing? Because I kept saying, well, I thought I was doing the right thing. Like, what's the right thing? Really, that right thing was rooted in shame. Okay. And anger and vengeance. So when I started to recognize and put that to the side, I started to also look at, well, shit, if this is a part of a bigger picture, then like whether the mother of the child knew or not, she did the right thing for the kid. Like he was provided for in a space that may have been uncertain. Now, I put my time in. I may not get any of that money back. Okay. And it's being humble to know, like, hey, I was there for that space for something bigger. We talked about Dharma and we talked a little bit about the karma. Something's coming back around for me because I was able to be in that space. Now, if I was still in anger and free of like in that ego space we've been talking about a couple of times throughout the episode, I would have never got to that shit. Yeah. I'd be in anger. Like I wouldn't really look at things in a certain perspective. Now, I think it's important. That's why that humble, when you said it, I was like, yo, okay, I get what you mean. Like it didn't have as much of a sting for me like it usually does. I was like, oh, this humble. But when you said it, I was like, oh shit, this is bigger.
Yeah. Like I think we have a tendency as, you know, like everyone to think we're actually more important than we actually are. And it's not, it's more like you said it before, where it's a whole universe conspiring around this thing. So whether it's like, you know, but you have a good head on your shoulders where you're like, all right, maybe it's just like karmatic debt and I did something in a past life and I need to, you know. And another thing too is like we're so easily to judge right and wrong. Like what makes you think it's right? How do you know it's not right? You don't know what the bigger you don't know what the bigger plan is.
That's it.
You don't know that somebody's behind the curtain, you know, with the little munchkin, wherever the hell. I haven't watched Wizard of Oz in a while, but somebody's behind the curtain holding everything, you know. I don't think it was a munchkin, but you know. But like there's a bigger play in there, so everyone's so quick to be like, oh, that's right, that's wrong, that's right, that's wrong. Yeah, there's some things like morality where it comes to life and death situations, which, you know, I can agree, but you talk to a lot of gurus, they say it's not right, it's not wrong, it's just it is. You know, and that takes a little higher level of you know, self growth to get to that point. But you know, what makes it right or wrong on an ethical level? You know,
it is too, B.
Yeah.
What makes it right or wrong
on the bigger stage, not just in our heads,
right? Dude, that was a key piece because I recognized, well, right or wrong is all a matter of perspective.
Yes.
It's all a matter of perspective. Like, you know, people will be like, oh, I was dumb. I can't believe you did that. Why didn't you get this thing tested? Like, You know what? You're right. And I didn't. So
now I know.
Now I know.
Yeah. Now I know. You know?
Okay. And here's and I think, as I'm thinking about this, Brian, I think you and I mentioned this in the frequency and vibration episode, is that the more I'm stuck in something, the more I'm like, I'm holding on to something, the more I'm going to be stuck in that frequency. So if I'm like, well, I'm right, I'm the stance, I'm the, then you're completely blocking yourself from ever growing.
Yeah, and we talked about it before, like, you know, that funnel thing that you put up before, like,
yeah.
Pretty much anything below. I forgot what's below neutrality. Was it?
Let's take a look.
Courage, or something like that. I forgot what it was.
It was courage. It was
Yeah,
courage.
so basically
Pride.
anything below like neutrality, like courage. I mean, courage is good, but it also can be bad. You can do stupid things when you're courageous, you know. So
Yes.
basically, anything below neutrality, you're vibing lower, you know. So you're everything. The universal language is vibration. So whatever you're vibrating at, you're going to attract that. This neutrality. That's one of the things I want to talk about too. Like that's what Paul and I wanted to talk about neutrality. Once you get over this hump,
Yeah.
and learn to be kind of like mentally and emotionally like even keel, and it's opening, the universe is opening up to you to allow better opportunities that come your way. You're attracting better things to you. Otherwise, you know, if you can't get past that ego, or you can't get past that, you know, that shame or guilt that you're programmed with and creating inauthentic identities with yourself, you're going to wake up in 10, 20, 30 years, and you can be in the same situation, bitching and moaning, not being happy where you are. Your relationships are going to be shit. Your job is going to be shit, you know? So this is, I think, an important step in your emotional, in your spiritual journey.
Yep, brother. Huge. This is a huge step in the journey, man. Because this is one of the things, Brian, I think people are resistant to let go of. Let go of being right. Most people need to be right.
Yeah.
They need their side to be right. They need their side to win. And then you mentioned it before, when that fails to happen, they're freaking devastated, which means
Yeah.
they're in sadness, they're in anger, they got anxious, and they're going to do stupid stuff. So this is important, people. This, like, I'm so happy we're talking about this, because I think this is one of those cases where people most likely wouldn't think about it. Like, I know when I was going through it and I was asking people about what's their concept or what's their thoughts around neutrality, like people are like, what?
Yeah.
It's stoic. I don't know. Like, why are you asking all these damn questions? You know what I mean? Because I like asking questions. But most people don't think about it, man. They don't.
No.
And they prefer to be on their side or be the side. And the thing is, everybody thinks their side is right.
Yeah. Well, they pick sides because when you're living an inauthentic life, you're living a life that is not meant for you. So
Right.
you try to live vicariously through other people, whether it be politicians, whether it be sports teams. You know, I used to go to sport games all the time. And like,
Yep.
I think the last like 6 or 7 I went to, like people are like families are beating the shit out of other families in the parking lot because they're wearing a different uniform. like, like, what? I'm like,
Really
he
happening?
doesn't play for that team, right? Like, oh, Mets suck, Yankees suck. Like, and all of a sudden there's like, you know, you get mothers and kids in there fighting, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? You know, for what? For what? This is a perfect example of not being neutral, and it's like, I'm
Yeah.
laughing because it's like you know, kids fighting. You know, I don't care how old you are on a chronological age, your kids fighting. You know.
They fight, man. It's all good. I know people were in that space around, especially around the playoffs and their favorite teams.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
we lost. Like, you on the payroll? No. They lost.
Yeah.
Shit, man. They
Yeah.
still go home to the, like, people are asking me, like, because I'm a Knicks fan. So
Mm-hmm.
people are like, oh, the Knicks lost to the Pacers. How do you feel? I was like, fine. I'm like,
Yeah.
are you upset? No. I'm like, listen, man, they go back to their $1 million mansions. I'm still
Yeah.
going back to 15 John. You know,
Yeah.
I'm good, man. I'm still, you know what I'm saying, bro?
Yeah. Yeah.
Child, please, man. Shucks, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's look, this is important. So take this episode. You can go back, rewatch it. The reason why, and to restate what we talked about before, the year that we're recording this particular video is an election year. There's two parties, and people are going to be asked to pick a side rather than choose a direction. Okay. Choose a direction is different, because choosing a direction is based on your morals, your values, your intentions, your future, what you want for yourself and for those that you love. When you pick a side, you're automatically determining that something's right and something's wrong. There's a difference. And when it comes to this, there's neither right or wrong. There's a direction, and we get to choose what's the direction we as a people want to go in. So be mindful of this as you make your decisions. It could be about like who's going to be the commander in chief, what cereal you want to get. Make sure you watch the FDA episode before you go out there and buy cereal.
Yep.
Plus, and look, or hey, what do you want to do going forward for a career? Like, there's so many different things and choices to make. Like, our invitation is to really be neutral, and as you make that decision, and go from there, choose a direction. B, I'm excited for this, man. Like, I'm curious to see how this is going to be received. But whatever. What's your B? Any is there anything that we failed to cover that you want to make sure is related in this in regards to neutrality or anything around that, man?
I think we talked about it before. I'm just going to kind of keep regurgitating. Is in order to kind of get past that inauthentic self, and that emotional imbalance that you might have, you have to choose one side or you're polarized on one side, and your goal is personal growth, inner peace. Stop, even if it's like somebody else is triggering you. Don't lash at them right away. Like, stop and be very non-judgmental. Be like, what do you think that person experienced in their early childhood that programmed them to be like that? That's empathy. So you don't even have to answer that question. You just kind of like just have the question, and right away it's going to put you more in an empathetic and a compassionate spot, and then you work on yourself and be like, it's okay. Bring up the shame. You got to keep digging into it. You got to keep shoveling away at it until you get it all out. And it just work on empathy and compassion.
Oh man, damn. And if I recall correctly, I think those are pretty high up on the where's compassion. Well, I guess that's more like compassion, like acceptance, love, joy. Those are pretty high. Those are pretty high. Yep.
Yeah.
What's up, man? Wow, B, thank you for that, man. Thank you for that. Whew.
And another one.
And another one, bro. And I don't know who's saying the original, but what more can we say? Listen, bless up, B. Listen, Brian. Our first year down, bro.
Plenty more to go. And drop some comments in if you have any kind of like ideas on what kind of podcast you want us to do, drop them in there. We're always trying to come up with new ideas. We plan on being here for a while, so I might as well give you something you guys want to. We might as well talk about something you guys want to talk about.
Yes. And listen, that helps stretch us too, because if it's something, we'll look into it. But like, yo, this is really interesting. You know what I mean? Like, we're here for you, man. We we have our knowledge, so we're picking our, we're coming up with our ideas and thoughts. And this is a channel that's here for you too. So you have a source, you have somewhere to go to be like, yo, I'm confused. Like, where do we want to go with things, man? So this is here for you. Drop some comments, please. Like, share, subscribe. If this episode was like, oh, this is really fascinating, great. Share it with a friend. Share it with someone that you care about during this like election year. You want to have a conversation with, like, and then be neutral. Like, if you want tips on how to have that conversation, reach out to Brian and I. We'll be mediators. We'll be the the rest of the cage match or whatever you choose to work it out.
There it is.
We'll hook it up, man. Peace, everybody. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Shabam. Wow. Peace.